All right, guys. Just want to apologize for the mid session. Thank you very much for your understanding. But as I promised you guys, here is the video of what was remaining for our last session. So let me just move this thing. So where we stopped where I showed you guys how to print a static text on your screen. We ran this so that you are able to see what it was showing on your screen. So if you remember correctly, the idea is to replicate this screen where we're supposed to have a heading, and then we print our name, and then we print a greeting message. So now we have explained that what allows us to print a static text, it is called text or elements, depending on where you're coming from. If you're coming from HTML, I think you will call this text. So now we don't want this name to appear like that. What we want is we need to store a name inside of a variable. Once again, what is a variable? A variable is a named storage or a named container, and a container by default, they're built to store something. So what we need to do now is to create this variable that will store our name. Instead of writing it like that, we can just call that variable name and we display it. So you can add all of these variables wherever you want, but we'll look at the opening curly brace of our function, and then I'll just press enter there. And then I'm going to create a variable. So this variable will contain only my name. You will do yours that contain your name. So in my application, this name should not supposed to change. It should always say Junior. So that tells you that this variable should be a constant. So let me add a comment and say create a variable called, we don't want that, we'll say called name to store the name of the user. That's perfect. So to do that, since I'm saying that it must be constant, what we're going to do now, we are going to use const as our data type, and then now I'm going to call this name. So this is the name of the variable, and then inside I'm storing Junior. You'll see that I'm putting code there to show that that is a string. So now here we wrote this text there. So now I can delete it, because instead of calling that name there, I can just call my name. But for now, we were replicating this screen. The first thing there, it's not a name. We will use that variable name later on, but the first thing that we need to do is to get a heading. And remember, I said that the heading name should be called mask 5112. So I'm going to use this text, and then I'm just going to write mask 5112. That will be our heading. But in order for it to look like this, center it, and then underline it, it means that I need to style it. Because if I don't add a style sheet to change its position, it's going to use the default one where you're going to see that mask in this side and an automatic or a blank font color. We don't want that. So let's go there. So what we're going to do is to add a style. We're going to follow the same example as they did there. To add a style in a tag or element, you're going to open at the end of the closing or the greater than symbol. We always start with the keyword style, and then we say assign equals to. After that, we'll put the curly braces. Then all of our stars, they sit inside of this drawer. This drawer has a lot of a wardrobe, so we can say this is a wardrobe, and then you can see this is the drawers inside of the wardrobe, or it could be a file cabinet. That will be the whole file, and then this will be the cabinets there. So inside there, we need to go inside of the cabinet first. We'll say styles, because it's coming from there. And then you put a dot in order to get, you can see now it's showing me that what do you have there, but I don't want to use that because that is for the container. I'm going to create my own. So I'm going to call my style heading. So later on, don't mind this IntelliSense. If you want to install this, you can install it, but let me just remove it because we're going to do this ourselves. Right, so we have that. We're going to add a style sheet later on. You can see you have an error there because we don't have a corresponding file cabinet. Okay, so now we have the heading there. So I can just move the line a bit. So now I also want to print my name, which is this one there. I'm going to make it interesting and give it another color that is different to that one so that you guys can see how we use style sheet. So I'm going to print my name. Everything that we print inside of text, it's used to print text. So I'm just going to say less than, and then I grab text and then shift hold greater than so that it gives me the closing tag for the text. So inside all I need, the requirement is we must print our name, which is Junior. Then you'll see that we don't write our name. All we need to do is to call the variable or the container that contains the name, which is that. So when you print this on the screen, it's going to show Junior because what? The name variable is storing Junior. So again, since I want to make this looks a little bit nice and different, I'm going to assign its own style sheet the same way that I did. You start with the keyword style, you say equal sign or assignment operator, and then inside you get into the cabinet, and then you put a dot to get the file cabinet, and then we're going to call this. Then after the dot, it is up to you whatever name that you want to give. Okay. So if you look at our user interface here, we have a heading, we have the name. Now we are left with this greeting message. So let's go back and do that. So all of these things should be inside of a text. So I'm just going to print the comment. By the way, inside of views, it's a little bit different. You have to put it inside of curly braces. You put a forward slash and then you put an asterisk, which is a star. And then inside there, you can just write between the asterisk. Then I can say here, print the welcome message that will greet the user using their name. Okay, so that's what we are going to do there. We're going to greet the user by getting their name. Okay, I'll remove that. Again, to print a text, we use it text, then we can say text, then I'll close it. Then we can say hello, put a comma. Now we need to grab the name of a user, in this case, which is Junior. And then inside there, I'm going to pass the variable name that contains that name. And then I'm going to say, let's do it for by English. Okay, now we can just write the message and say, welcome to a module where you build mobile apps. That's all that we need to print, but we also need to format this so that we have our own style sheet. I'm adding a lot of style sheet here so that you guys, you can see how we do it. So we start with the keyword style, and then assignment operator, you put your curly braces. And then inside they tap into the file cabinet, which is styles dot, and then we're gonna call this message. So everything is fine with our code. We only have 3 errors there because this file cabinet does not exist. Same as that one, same as that one. So I'm going to double click the first file cabinet. Then I'm going to go all the way where our styles are created inside of this cabinet. So we have the first file cabinet that is called container. Its opening bracket is this curly brace, it ends there. And then they just put a comma there to tell you that if you want to put more, you can just add it. So I'll press there and press enter. Now I can call the file cabinet that I created. I'm going to follow the same structure as that one. Then I'll press the colon, and then I'll give the curly braces. So in the heading, I'm not going to do a whole lot of things. Again, I'll show you guys when we meet. You don't have to know what in terms of font style sheet. You can search this while you're busy coding. So the next class I will fuse that with it so I can show you guys how you can get what you want. The only trick is you need to know what you want to use to style your application. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to grab the font size. So I'll say font size, because it's a number, then we are going to give font size deals with a number. So we just go, let me say with 30. And then once you're done, you're going to put a comma. And then let's bold that. To bold, we use font weight. We use font weight, and then we bold here. It's a string, the weight. You can use a number. It means that you'll have to delete this and write a number if that's the route that you want to go. So I'm going to add color to this. So I'll say color. So the easiest one, guys, here is you're going to type color here, and then you're going to grab the color that you want. So the easiest one for me, go with the default one that you've been given there, and then you just go and paste it there. I don't want that. So once you get this box, now you can click it, and then now you can be able to go and select the one that you want. And then you leave it. Or if you know the color, you can just write them there inside. That is up to you. So going back there, you'll see that this guy is underlined. So we also need to underline our heading. So I'm just gonna go there. And then to underline, we use what we call text decoration. So I'll just write text decoration line, and then you can just say underline. And then make sure that all of these things are not clustered with each other. To do that, we are going to add what we call margin bottom. So you can leave doing that will be sufficient. So if we scroll all the way, you'll notice that heading now does not have an error. So let's do the same thing for name. Okay, the blue one, you put a comma, you put a space. Now you do the one for name, the same thing. So inside of a name, what you want, we can start with the font size. It's up to you, whatever you want to put here. You'll never be told, by the way. And then I can bold these as well. So some of these you don't have to rewrite them because you already have the code. Just copy and then paste it there. And then after that, you can have a color as well, just like we did. And then please add a bottom so that they are not clustered as well. I'll add 18 there. And then I'll press enter. Then the last one, that will be message. So I'll just say message. And then we close it. I'm going to remove this. We have already done that, so I can just copy that. So my IntelliSense is super fast. Okay, and then we can change the font size. It's up to you, whichever one you want. And then we'll just say I want to align my text. So we have already done something that align your text. Let's just check. Okay, we don't have it. So you're going to say text align, then you can align it center. There you go. Please don't forget I'm gonna find a way to switch this in 10 cents. It's not nice while you're busy teaching. Okay, so if you go all the way up, you realize that no more errors. So Control save. I hope it's still running. There you go. And then that's you have your application. The only difference here, you realize that you are not scrolling down. That is for another lesson that we are going to do later on. So we can't have the same color there, so I'll just change that. And then I'll say that is too big, the heading. Maybe I can say 20. And then for this, I can say 18. And then for this, I can say 12. Control save. And then I'll go back. That looks neat. There you go. Once you're done, you save your project. Please save this because for your next class, we will be continuing from here. All the best, guys. Keep on practicing. You'll get used to this one. See you guys next week.